episode of Drafters TV. I'm Ben Hauver, and today, guys, NFL Week 1 is finally here, and I'm going to be discussing a new way to play DFS, specifically a new tournament over on Drafters with only a $3.30 entry fee that pays out $1,000 to first. But before I get into the details, make sure you drop a like on this video, and if you're feeling especially generous, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it more than you know. Speaking of subscribing, if you would like a chance to win a free ticket into a Drafters contest of your choice up to $5.50, whether that be a cash game or simply taking a shot at a tournament like this, the $3.30 entry GPP, all you have to do is subscribe to this YouTube channel and leave a comment below with your thoughts on this new DFS format, and the winner will be selected on next week's video. Make sure you drop your Drafters username as well so we know where to credit the ticket. I have new content with giveaways as well each and every single week, so make sure you're subscribed. Now, let's get into this tournament. So I would describe this tournament as a hybrid between the standard weekly snake draft format that you'd be familiar with on a site like Drafters and the steps type of tournaments that you might see on something like DraftKings. And what we've got here is a, like I said, $3.30 entry fee in a 3-week bracket that starts with 1,000 total players sorted into 110 team drafts. So 100 separate leagues, if you will be sorted into 10 teams and draft the top 10% of the field, or simply stated, the winner of each 10-man league in week 1 will advance to week 2. At that point, players will redraft their teams for week 2. You're not keeping the same roster for multiple weeks. There will be 100 players left by this week 2 cutout, and after that, same thing, moves on to week 3. There will only be 10 players left at that point, one more draft to go, and the winner of that will be vying for the top prize in week 3. This GPP has a 10 entry max per player. There are 8 rounds per draft, 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, and a flex. 80 players in total get drafted. So I did 3 drafts so far, and I have a couple of takeaways. And the first one is that understanding lineup construction and opportunity cost as it relates to positional scarcity is going to give you a significant edge over the field in a contest like this, and hopefully in future contests if this, gets positive feedback and Drafters continues to launch tournaments like this throughout the year. In terms of lineup construction, one thing that I'm seeing consistently is a complete disregard for stacking. I will show you the 3 teams that I drafted in a moment here, but looking back, out of the 30 teams that I drafted with and the 3 teams that I participated in, only 14 teams stacked their quarterbacks with a pass catcher or a running back from the same team. That is less than half, 46.6% to be exact. Now, I won't go as far as to say that over half the field is drawing dead because they're not stacking, but I certainly think that they aren't favorites to win. They're putting themselves at a clear disadvantage. And, I don't care how good you think that the players you draft are or how you think they project, putting yourself in a position to win through good correlation is an absolute must in a format like this. So here are the 3 teams that I've drafted so far, and I'll talk about some trends that I noticed and the strategy behind these teams. First and foremost, you'll notice that on all 3 rosters, I utilized a RB3 in my flex opposed to a wide receiver 4 or tight end 2. On teams 1 and 3, you'll notice that I used my first 3 picks at the running back position. I think in a contest like this, you can put yourself ahead by locking up guaranteed high workload backs early, 3 of them if you can, and let other people simply eliminate themselves by investing more heavily in volatile positions like wide receiver that are more likely to bust, or even in a position like quarterback, which I think the production is easily replaceable. In Team 2, I did go wide receiver early with Julio Jones. Julio, to me, was just too valuable at pick 21 in a game that has major shootout potential against Seattle. I already had CMC and Josh Jacobs, which is easily 50-plus running back touches. I considered going wide receiver in the flex late with this draft. However, Raheem Mostert quietly slipped, and as a lead back for a team with the 3rd highest implied team total on the slate in the 49ers, I think he has some real appeal, especially with the second to last pick. A few other observations that I think are worth noting. One is that I stacked on all three of these teams. If you are not stacking in a 10-man league, I don't know what you're doing. Another observation is that, pick 59 in round 6 is the earliest I was willing to reach on quarterback across these three drafts, with guys like Josh Allen against a pass funnel New York Jets secondary and Matt Ryan consistently falling outside of the first 5 rounds with ceilings as high as anybody on the slate. I think opting to go with guys like Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or even Dak Prescott, who I saw go in the first round at one point, over these 3 down running backs is just a clear-cut mistake. In terms of tight ends, I think that in daily and weekly contests, it's easy to pay down a lot of the times. The ceilings are generally lower across this position, but in a format like this, I wanted to prioritize having a player who can legitimately hit a ceiling game. I wouldn't have been opposed to taking either of Kittle or Kelsey in the first round of a format like this. I just simply didn't have the opportunity to do so, as I'm not taking him ahead of guys like CMC or Zeke. Zach Ertz, however, both in this contest and across the DFS industry in week 1 is one of the top plays I think you can make. People don't seem to be on him that heavily, and I think he gives you really strong leverage off of some of the shakier chalk options on the slate, like Deshaun Jackson, for example, or Miles Sanders, whose workload in week 1 seems to be in question. I almost took Zach Ertz over Joe Mixon on team 1. Thankfully, I did not, and he fell back to me in round 4 and even later in the second draft. The final note that I wanted to make in terms of these 3 teams is that I think capitalizing on the volatility of wide receiver, specifically with your wide receiver 3, is the optimal choice. You can find guys who will give you boom weeks that either match or beat the production of other teams' wide receiver 3s that those players invested higher in the draft on. When it comes to running back or tight end, I don't think you're going to find a player in the 7th or 8th round that is likely to beat the running back selected higher. Same goes for tight ends. You're going to be looking at guys like, Chris Herndon, Austin Hooper, Hayden Hurst, etc. Those guys, have paths to ceilings, but it's just so unlikely that they'll put up games that really match what guys like Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews, and Ertz can give you. For that reason, across all 3 teams, wide receiver 3 was my last priority. I took John Brown in the 8th and final rounds for both teams 1 and 2, and Michael Gallup as my wide receiver 3 in round 7 for the 3rd team. I would have been comfortable waiting again, but again, lineup construction and the only stackable quarterback options I had for that team were Stafford or Goff. I figured one or both would make it back to me at the end of the draft, and I was correct. All in all, guys, I really do like this format. I think it's fun. I think it's kind of easy in a way. These drafts don't take long, maybe 15 minutes. And I think that there's a clear edge if you know what you're doing. And I hope that Drafters launches more versions of this tournament in the future. I'd like to see one running every single week, ideally. So for example, if they launch one next week, it would be something that ran from weeks 2 through 4. I think that would be dope. I hope that they make that happen. But what do you think? Are you guys and gals out there feeling this tournament? How do you feel about these 3 teams that I drafted and the strategies that I'm talking about in this video? Let me know in the comments section below. And like I said at the top of the video, you can win a free ticket to a drafters contest of your choice up to $5.50 if you subscribe and drop a comment with your thoughts on this format of fantasy and your drafters username, of course. I will be back with more content soon. Football is here. It's a great time to be alive. Looking forward to talking to you guys on the next video, so stay tuned.